Good morning. My name is Dawn Booth, and I've been a member of St. Columba's for over 20 years. My faith story started across town at St. Luke's Episcopal Church, Northwest, on 15th Street near P and Q. That's where I was baptized as an infant. My mother and her sisters were raised in that church, and my grandfather was the treasurer there for many years. This was back probably in the late 30s, 40s, so it was tough times. My parents moved my sisters and I to New Jersey when I was 5, and while I don't remember much about St. Luke's Church, I do remember being very close to St. Paul's Church in Englewood Cliffs, which is where I was raised. Particularly, I remember my mother leading the children's chapel, which is similar to story time here, where the children go out during the sermon, and my mother would lead with song and playing the organ. And she was a music major and musician, and so it was a lot of fun. I also recall that confirmation was very important to me. Somehow that sticks in my memory as a very important part of my faith journey. My dad was on the vestry, so this is kind of a generational thing where people in my family support the church governance that way. I sang in the choir, and I participated in various youth ministries. After moving back to DC as an adult, I joined St. Columba's and was eventually called to be part of a team of Right 13 co-leaders, and which doesn't surprise me given that my confirmation was so important to me. And at some point, Dave Mengers, one of the co-leaders, and I had a conversation about our faith journey. Dave was the son of a rector of St. Columba's, and so I told him, shared some of the details of my faith journey and told him I was baptized at St. Luke's, and he just, his face lit up, and he said, "Oh yeah, I know St. Luke's. My parents sent me there during summer Bible school sessions every year because of the excellence of that program." So I paused and I said, okay, my faith journey is getting more interconnected and more interesting. In addition to serving in children's ministries, I've also helped with various homelessness ministries, Fletcher House. I led the meal program for a year, I think, and I served certainly meals beyond that. I led some services over at Friendship Terrace, where you're actually giving a small homily, and so I feel like God was kind of leading me toward where I am now, all along. 4 years ago, I began discerning whether I was being called to the diaconate, and with Ledley's gentle encouragement and strong hand, and the support of my lay discernment committee and the clergy here, and so many of you, I have completed this journey as of yesterday, and now I am an ordained deacon. So let me finish by telling you one experience. There are many experiences, but one experience that struck me yesterday. So my lay sister's daughter, my niece, brought her 2 children to the service yesterday, and the youngest is 15 months old. And at some point in the service, the deacons kneel and face the bishop, so we're not seeing people behind us, but I could hear a child starting to cry, and it wasn't over-the-top wailing, but clearly this child wanted to express that they needed something. And I immediately thought, oh, that's Abel. That's my grandnephew. I recognized that cry. And I was watching Bishop Marion's reaction, and she smiled gently, like the grandmother and shepherdess that she is. And that stood out to me in particular because I had attended a symposium, a Zoom symposium, earlier this year, at which a bishop gave the concluding remarks. And he told the audience that in his first Mass, Eucharistic Mass, he was ready to just make this, statement, and a child in the parish was crying. And he thought that that child had ruined his moment. But as years later, it occurred to him that that child had actually given him a huge gift, because the child represented for him that the suffering in the world need to be brought into the church. We need to understand who's suffering, who is crying right now. And we are here on this earth to serve those who are suffering and who are crying. And that's my role now as a deacon, to serve and to empower others to do the same.